All right, let's move on to the plight of the centre-left globally. Raymond, why are these parties struggling?
Well, I think Helen Clark is right in that it's a cyclical thing. As sure as day follows night, Labour is going to come back into power. And in New Zealand, it's been...
Other parties have disappeared, though. It can't all be cyclical.
Well, it has been cyclical. And in fact, there are very few major parties that have ever disappeared. You have to go back for decades to see it. And I think this is definitely what happens. In New Zealand, it has been about an average of every 9 years. There's been a change of government. People get tired of the old government. But to get back to this business about the Social Democrats, I mean, I think it's a question of heart and head to some extent. The heart tells them that they are Social Democrats. They're all about inequality, concern for the poor, the people who have been deprived, the need to make sure that people on lower incomes are looked after, the need to use the state to intervene in the economy in order to help those people, higher taxes, all of those sorts of things. That's what the heart is telling them. The head is telling them they have to move into the centre ground. They have to appeal to middle-income voters. And because of that sort of head versus heart, you see in someone like Ed Miliband, for instance, or David Cunliffe, leaders who are talking out of both sides of their mouth at the same time.
Trying to get everybody on side.
Exactly.
Corin brought up the topic of aspiration. Michael Cullen delivered a speech a couple of months ago where he said Labour needed to reclaim some of the language, and aspiration was one of the things. The former Home Secretary for Labour, Alan Johnson, said the problem wasn't Miliband, but the issue of aspiration in people's lives. We as Labour can no longer relate to them as a party of aspiration. Is it, as Corin was suggesting, that they've won all the battles on the fringes, the social progressive moves and so forth, and they've really got no more ground, and now Labour supporters go, I want to aspire to something better too? What's Labour offering me? Yeah. Perhaps I'll give this one to Deborah.
Yeah, sure.
But I think one of the things we need to remember is that a large part of the social democratic project has been achieved. We've got worldwide and certainly in Western countries commitments to welfare systems and to health.
Well done. So how relevant are you now that that's done? Can't sit on your laurels, though.
Indeed, but there are a lot of people who are still missing out. So there are people who are right on the bottoms of our society, and what we've seen in the last, I don't know, 10,
why aren't
15
they voting
years,
for you?
Well, we've seen people being abandoned by the rich parties, the people who represent the rich, and they're kind of people who, again, in the small towns, who are regarded as widgets that can fit into a machine instead of people who have lives and aspirations of their own. I think as the centre-left, what we need to be saying to these people is saying, we believe in you, we trust you, we've got your back, we're going to support you, you go out there and charge on, and we'll back you all the way, and we're going to make sure you're backed up by that health system, that education system, that welfare system.
We trust you, but they don't trust you at the moment.
Well, I think they will in time. We've got some good people.
One of the interesting changes in the last decade or so is the decreasing engagement, particularly of the young, in politics generally. There are only 59% or so of those people between 18 and 28 who actually voted in the last election, and that compares with 87% for those aged over the age of 60. And that, for the centre-left, is a real concern. How has this generation become disengaged from politics generally, and is there any way they can be re-engaged?
As a third-term government, though, we know historically that those are always fraught with danger. This one has continued to build its mandate.
That's amazing. It's really historic proportions. And I think it is because it is a moderate, pragmatic, cautious government, by and large, that has, to some extent, stolen Labour's thunder. And they are appealing to they're getting their constituency out.
Things like that rise in basic benefits.
That's right. I mean, there are all sorts of ways in which John Key has done what a Labour Prime Minister might well have done if in power. And I think that in that way he's been very mindful of the need to dominate the centre ground in New Zealand politics. And you see it all the time where he's searching for what does public opinion say on this particular issue, and then moving cautiously forward.
Taking his personality out of it and how popular it is, what does Labour need to do as a game breaker, a circuit breaker?
Well, I think that the important thing for Labour over the next 2 years is they need to sort out that they've got to inspire. They've got to have an authenticity about them. You look very much at Andrew Little. Andrew Little seems to be a competent sort of leader, But you need to have the ability to inspire the voting public.
So we need some grand vision in policy.
You need some grand vision, and I think they're really still struggling to sort out what they believe. It's all very well criticising National, but you've got to really have a clear vision of where you want to take the country.
As a Labour Party member, do you have that clear vision on behalf of your party?
I do, and it is, again, it's about backing people and providing them with security.
That's the same old message, though, that hasn't been working, isn't it?
It's not the same old message. It's the same sort of thing we want to. We do want to say it. It's really about giving people that space to operate, to be free, to flourish because we back them. And we do have that value embedded all through our policies. And it puzzles me when we talk about John Key being so popular and pragmatic. I don't know what his principles are. He seems to do anything that will get a vote. So I'm puzzled as to what the principles are that drive him and his party.
The aspirational middle are voting for him, though.
Yeah, but what's his
values?
What
concerns me is that Labour activists like yourself don't actually recognise where John Key is so popular. You've got to see that first of all.
But I see him as being a popular salesman, and to me he's not driven by a value. What does he actually want to achieve? And I do not understand that. And
even if he is, though, his message is working, and that's what you've got to counter, isn't it?
We need to make sure that we work to support people, and I think we will get people in time to regard us as a viable alternative and as a good government because we actually believe in individual people and give them a chance.
All right, we're going to just leave that one there because we've only got about a minute left, and we need to talk about the final in this aspiration very, very quickly. Helen Chance's job, the chances of